bang jago, sorry bang jago, ampun bang jago. Ampun bang jago.
Gelap kelip di tengah-tengah laut, lampu perahu nelayan. 9.000 bintang sempurna bentuk bulan perhiasan. Kamu bikin pusing kepalaku, tak lama kau terus sakiti aku. Dah.
Tarik ses semongko.
Mantap.
719 kalau yang gatal-gatal ada yang mati gila sah. Wait a minute. Who are you?
Assalamualaikum. My name is Aina Nurkhalida. Today my team and I are going to present about managing inventory, including JIT system. Okay, this is the content that we going to present. Okay, what is managing inventory? Okay, managing inventories refer to process of ordering, storing, and using a company's inventory. It includes management of raw materials, component, and finished product, as well as warehousing and processing such items. Okay, an effective management inventory is important part of supply chain management because it can help to reduce the supplier cost as well as manufacture raw material and finished good cost. Okay, next is the reason why carrying inventory. Okay, first is to cope with the uncertainties in customer demand in production process such as machine breakdown. Okay, the inventory act as buffer against the possibility of running out of material or finished product because the business priority is they should be able to meet a customer service target, meaning that they are able to supply with a customer goods and services that they want. Okay, next is qualify for discount available on large orders. It is called quantity discount. Quantity discount is a price reduction provided by supplier when a firm order in large quantity. Okay, from time to time, supplier will offer a discount, so it will have a low buying cost to the business. Then it will affect a low selling price to the customer, so it will attract a new customer. Next is avoid future price increase in raw material. And lastly, avoid the cost associated with the placing numerous relatively small order with suppliers. Most seasonally affected business will choose to hold more inventory during peak season or event periods such as Hari Raya, Deepavali, New Year, and other events. So, in order to meet the seasonal demand, the company need to place order months in advance and order in large quantity for their inventory. So, it will avoid them to order small order with the supplier. Next is the managing inventory. It have two methods. First is just in time and material requirement planning. Okay, next I will explain to you about material requirement planning, or it's called MRP. Okay, MRP is a computer-based inventory management system designed to improve the productivity of a business. Okay, they have three primary steps. First is taking inventory of the materials and components on hand. Next is identify which additional ones are needed. And lastly, scheduling their production or purchases. Okay, company use MRP to estimate the quantities of the raw material and schedule their deliveries. Okay, next. Okay, MRP use master schedule to ensure the material, labor, and equipment are needed for the production is at the right place, in the right quantity, and at the right time. Okay, the schedule is based on forecast demand on company's products. And MRP also ensure a smooth flow of the finished products. Okay, for the objective of MRP is to make sure the materials and components are available when needed in the production process and manufacturing take place on schedule. Okay, MRP also have disadvantages and advantages. Okay, for the advantages is first, to reduce the customer lead time to improve customer satisfaction. Next is reduce inventory costs, and lastly can improve the manufacturing efficiency by using accurate production planning and scheduling to optimize the use of labor and equipment. For the disadvantages, increase in inventory costs. Okay, while MRP is designed to ensure adequate inventory level at required time, company can be tempted to hold more inventory than it's necessary. So it can cost more inventory cost. Next is lack of flexibility. MRP is also somewhat cannot change and simplistic in how it accounts for lead time or detail that affect the master production schedule. Okay, such as efficiency of the worker or issue can be delay the delivery of material. Okay, lastly is data integrity requirement. MRP is highly depend on the having accurate information about the demand, the product, the inventory. If the information is inaccurate, the error can be increased at a later time. Okay, next I will show you the video briefly explain about what is just in time. Okay.
I'm Alex Berman, and you're watching Selling Breakdowns. Whenever you buy a complex piece of equipment such as a TV or a car, do you ever wonder how exactly it all came together? Well, ever since the Industrial Revolution, that how has been a vital question for many businesses. Today we're going to look at how in post-war Japan, Toyota helped to create one of the smartest production systems that we have, named Just-in-Time. We'll look at how it works and how you can apply the philosophy and practices to many other areas of your business. After World War II, Japan faced some difficult problems. They didn't have a lot of cash, resources were scarce, and there wasn't a lot of free land to expand factories. However, Taiichi Ohno at Toyota managed to turn these problems into advantages by slowly creating the just-in-time system. The idea didn't come all at once, it's more that through the 50s and 60s, various changes were implemented and improved until the 70s, where the wider world began to realize the benefits and adopted a similar approach. So, what is just-in-time? The philosophy is to make the entire production system only work with what it needs and to minimize wait times between each stage. The biggest savings is normally around inventory. Before just-in-time, a company would keep a warehouse filled with the parts and raw materials it needed. When supplies were getting low, they'd reorder when they had just enough to keep going until the new delivery came. But Toyota realized, what if you just keep making that same order as soon as the next one arrives? That way, you never need to keep this stockpile of spare parts. The cost savings were huge since warehousing is seriously expensive. You need to pay for massive space, power, staff, security, and for all the parts that are just sitting there waiting, not making you money or adding value to your product. And this is the core of just-in-time. You look at each area of production and ask, is this adding value to the product? If it isn't, maybe there's a better way to do it. You cut everything down to its most efficient form with almost no room for error, which is where the risk in just-in-time lies. Toyota used Japan's relatively small size to its advantage. You could rely on suppliers delivering exactly on time because they only had to travel small distances. This is important because if you get problems with supply, it can shut down the whole system. But it's normally worth the risk because the savings are huge on inventory and staff costs. More than this though, you're forced to create a working philosophy that there's no room for error. You don't have spare parts or spare time, so you have to make sure everything functions perfectly. Often, efficiency comes at the cost of quality, but not in this case. In just-in-time, you're forced into quality in order to be efficient. That's why it's applicable to many other areas of business. The best way to think about it is if we simplify everything to two approaches: just-in-time and just-in-case. With just-in-case, you're trying to minimize risk by always giving yourself a buffer. You'll carry extra stock so you can swap out faulty items. You'll overstaff certain areas because they've occasionally had too much work to deal with. You'll support a service that just a few customers ask for. With just-in-time, you don't simply cut these areas and cross your fingers that nothing bad happens. No, you work out how you can avoid them happening in the first place. Because this is money that's wasted unless a bad thing happens, you're effectively investing in mistakes. Better quality control means staff can trust the stock that they have so they don't need a backup. As for workloads, the only reason one department is hit by a workload that they can't handle is because there's not enough visibility between departments. If your sales team know the capacity of production and its current status, then they won't put in an order that can't be filled. And as for offering a service with limited customer appeal, well, maybe you cut it out completely, or you just find a way to merge it with other services so the resources it requires are absolutely minimal. When done well, the just-in-time philosophy should be good for morale too, because the whole point of it is telling your staff, I'm trusting you to perform consistently. And I think most of us respond well to that kind of respect. Want to learn more about business theory and history? Be sure to like and subscribe to be notified of our next segment.
Hi everyone, so I guess you already watched the video on JIT. So before I proceed on JIT, I will briefly explain in short the traditional method. So traditional approach to inventory consider the balance between three classes of costs, which are ordering costs, carrying costs, and also shortage costs. They uses the push system where the goods are purchased or produced to meet inventory requirements rather than to meet the actual customer demand. The success of the push system depends on the excellent forecasting, whereby the product are either manufactured or ordered in advance to meet the anticipated demand. Now we will move on to the just-in-time or JIT. So JIT is a Japanese management philosophy which has been applied since the early 1970s in many Japanese manufacturing organizations. It was first developed by Toyota Manufacturing Plant, which is by Taichi Ohno, as a means of meeting consumer demand with minimum delays. So JIT inventory and production system is a comprehensive system for controlling the flow of manufacturing in a multi-stage production environment. The underlying philosophy is the simplification of the production process by removing the non-value added activities. Inventory is a critical component of JIT because it can be a major cause of the non-value added activities. So the important characteristic of JIT is the push system. So the push system production and inventory purchases are pulled through the system whereby it is driven by the actual demand of the final customer. So basically, it focuses on meeting the immediate customer needs for product and inventory. The goal of JIT is to reduce or eliminate inventories at every stage of production, from the raw materials to the finished goods. Here we have an example, which is the JIT system for the Parmesan grater. So as you can see from the diagram, the solid arrows will represent the manufacturing activities, which runs from one production stage to the next. The dashed line arrows represent the signals that will trigger more production activities in each stage that comes from the next stage of production. So we will start from the sales of cheese grater. So the sales order for the cheese grater will trigger their production. Therefore, the demand for production of cheese grater is signaled when the sales activity warrants more finished goods. This will trigger the activity in the packaging stage. Okay, at the packaging stage, the employee will need more input or more cheese grater to be packed or sealed into the box. So they will send a signal for more input to the assembly stage. So this will trigger the purchases of the stainless steel component, and then they will also send a signal to the plastic molding to demand for the plastic component in order for them to produce the cheese grater. So at the plastic molding stage, they will demand for the raw material as they need it to produce the plastic component. So this will trigger the purchasing activities of the plastic pellet, which is the raw material. So element of JIT, there are 4 elements. First is the elimination of waste. Number 2 is the continuous improvement, to remove anything that does not add value to the product, such as weighing costs, repairing, and others. Number 3 is striving for simplicity. Simpler systems may be easier to understand, to manage, and are less likely to go wrong. And number 4 is prevent maintenance. The JIT emphasis on low inventory between workstations. Unplanned machine downtime can be disruptive. Therefore, preventive maintenance can reduce the frequency and duration of the machine downtime. Next, we will go to the reason to implementing JIT. There are 3. First is to reduce the inventory cost. JIT inventory system reduces the amount of material on hand in the production facility. The companies can reduce the cost to store and maintain excess inventory and eliminate the risk of materials becoming obsolete while in storage. The high inventory qualities will tie up the company funds, which could otherwise benefit other areas in business such as research and development of new product. Therefore, with the reduction in the inventory cost, the company can expand and grow their business. Number 2 is lead time reduction. In a manufacturing business, the material will not move to the next step until that step or the station is ready. This will reduce the stockpiling of unfinished product at any stage in the production process. So once the company eliminate the bottleneck, the production speed or the lead time will be faster. Lastly is the customer satisfaction. Company implement the JIT system to satisfy the demand from the customer. Reduction in lead time and cost can help a company to deliver a product to the customer faster and also for a lower price. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
JIT can be categorized into 2, JIT purchasing and JIT production. So what is JIT purchasing? Let's go to the next slide. So, JIT purchasing is about an activity to purchase raw materials from the supplier to meet the customer demand. Most of the company implementing JIT system found that purchasing is one of the elements that can affect the overall system, which involves smaller order and frequent deliveries. So the main goals of JIT purchasing is to reduce the cost of carrying inventory. So what is carrying cost of inventory? It is the cost to hold the inventory. 4 features of JIT purchasing. First is reduce cost, supplier commitment, specify the quality targets, and the rights. How JIT helps to reduce the cost? So generally, JIT helps to reduce the cost by having a low physical inventory in the warehouse. So costs such as storage and insurance costs can be eliminated. Second is supplier commitment. JIT approach requires a closer integration with the supplier. This is because it involves frequent deliveries, which means most of the time they are getting the raw materials from the same supplier, and then helps them to develop a long-term relationship with the supplier. Then, it focuses on the quality of raw materials, since most of the firm wanted to reduce or eliminate any defective material that can cause interruptions in the productions. This is to reduce an activity of inspection or counting of the materials received. And lastly is the rights. So it is JIT is to ensure that they have the right quantity, right time, and the right quality of raw materials and their productions. Next, 2 costs to be considered are carrying costs and ordering costs. It's true that having a low inventory doesn't need much storage, but still the firm need to pay for the rental of storage space if they rent them. Second is ordering costs. Ordering cost is an incremental cost of placing an order for that inventory. At sometimes, maybe an organization need to order a greater unit of materials from that supplier, and that supplier need to incur a greater cost to produce that materials. For example, extra number of workers to produce that materials. Few benefits of JIT purchasing includes long-term contract, increased productivity, and waste reduction. JIT purchasing enables them to have a long-term contract. The firm are getting the raw materials needed from the same supplier at most of the time. It is to secure discounts from that supplier, and thus enables them to have a better planning in terms of the cost to be incurred in future period and current. Second, increased productivity. By having a lower inventory on hand, meaning that they can eliminate non-value added activities such as frequent inspection on the materials received, which can reduce the ordering and carrying costs. And the employees doesn't need to spend much time on that particular task. And lastly is waste reduction. As you guys know that JIT emphasizes on having exactly the units of inventory at one particular of time. So it helps to prevent goods from damage or obsolete. And thus the management can have a proper control over the stock level of their firm. Second type of JIT is JIT production. JIT production allows manufacturers to reduce financial risk since we know that they are producing in small batches. So the primary goals of JIT production are to reduce cycle times and to reduce response time from the supplier and to the customer. Next, features of JIT production. A full method of coordinating production. Kanban is a card or visible record that is used to signal a request for the next inventory, next production, which means that no finished goods will be produced until they receive the signals. Second, simplify the production process. It simplifies the overall production process from the receiving materials from the supplier until the delivery of the finished goods to the customer, since we know that they are eliminating non-value-added activities. And third, we know that the goods will be purchased and the product will be produced by the firm only if they are required. So the batch size will tend to be small and firm can have a low level of inventory in the warehouse. And lastly, quick and inexpensive setup. Setup time can be deferred from one company to another company. So each firm need to identify how much setup times that they require in order to meet the delivery requirements from the customer. So they need to analyze and identify and eliminate the non-value-added activities by ensuring that they are using the advanced technology in order to reduce these setup times. That's all for me. Next.
Thank you, Aina Hisham. Next, I will proceed to the benefits of JIT production. As you guys can see, there are 4 benefits that we put here. First, to reduce the warehousing cost. Storing the large amount of inventory can be costly. So when the company implement the JIT, it will help to reduce the warehouse that they need to maintain or even can get rid of them. Second benefit is to improve the supply chain management. When the company adopt this method, it will increase the efficiency and competitiveness regarding on how they handle the supply chain and assemble their product, because the efficiency of supply chain can help the company to lower the manufacturing costs, influence the customer costs, and making the product become more affordable. The third benefit is better customer satisfaction. Okay, when the company implement the JIT system, they're able to serve their customer with more efficiency and speed. For the last benefit is decrease waste. Related to the company that adopt traditional method, at the end, that company might have unsold inventory that wind up as a waste. So that company requires splash price to get rid the unsold inventory, and it will affect the value of other product. So, how to avoid? The company need to implement the JIT inventory control to prevent the good become damaged and increase the response time. Okay, next. Okay, there are 3 implications of JIT. First, risk of running out of stock. Okay, the company need to have the correct procedure in place to store their stock to ensure that their stock are readily available. And the company need to have a good relationship with their own supplier. Okay, the second implication is lack of control over the time frame. Okay, as what stated from the slide, the company have to rely on the timeliness of suppliers for each order, and this may have risk of delaying the customer receipt of good, because if you don't meet the customer expectation, it will have a huge impact on your own business. Okay, the last implication is more planning required. Okay, this one, the company need to fully understand their sales trends and variance in the close detail, because most of company, they have their own seasonal sales period. Okay, the number of product increase at a certain time of the year due to the higher demand. So therefore, the company need to do planning, okay, to ensure the supplier able to meet different volume requirements at different times. Okay, next. Okay, we have three roles of accountant in managing the inventory. First, to monitor the cost of raw materials and the production as well. Accountant need to expert regarding on the cost associated with the producing and storing the inventory. How much to spend acquiring raw material and producing them into the finished product. Okay. The next role is to assist in the improvement of internal control related to the inventory. So, accountant, they spend most of their time at the location, orchestrating and overseeing the inventory places. I mean process. Okay, sorry. And the last role is to generate and analyze inventory reports. Okay, accountant responsible to present the reports to the upper level management in order to ensure there are no discrepancies on the inventory that take place at the during the production. Okay, next. Okay, now we have reached the last part of JIT inventory control, which is conclusion. Okay, to conclude from this study, it is understood that this modern competitive world, the JIT system play an important role to reduce the manufacturing time and wastage during production. Thus, it increased the amount of good produced and decreased the cost of production as well. Okay, if you look through the eyes of the corporation that has implemented the JIT system, we can refer to the video that we have shown to you, the Toyota. The positive outcomes that arise from the use of the system is far greater than those that are not implement this system. Therefore, JIT inventory control is a very effective and efficient way to eliminate the wastage. That's it. Thank you for watching.